So just to reintroduce, I'm Venkat. I'm the product marketing director for the cloud business or the SaaS platform of IDQ. The topic we are going to ponder upon today is how cloud first physical access control is helping in bridging the gap between the reality of what is the intelligence spaces at this contemporary time and what is the need for it and how it can be addressed. That's the topic we want to discuss about. So, seeing the work environment itself changing, right? Over the past few years, let's say that we are talking about 2015 to 2026, the way we work itself has changed, be it influences like the COVID or the type of environments we cater in the office space, be it open office space culture, which we have right now. The entire the way how people work from their office spaces have changed, right? So there are a few points which we want to highlight, saying that okay, this is the new reality. Okay, this is how people want to work. One of it is, say, we are talking about mobile first culture. So earlier, you used to complain. For example, if you have some kind of an issue at an office space, you used to complain in your logbook and other things. So now what happens? You have your property management applications from where people get to immediately, tell about their grievances and whatever they want to do. It happens at a very, easy click from their mobile appliances itself. You're taking the total facility to the mobile point of the users. Okay. Similarly, the organization itself used to be concentrated in few cities. Now it is dispersed across the locations. We have people who work from home in remote places and all. And also, we expect the response from the system to be very agile. It has to be very quick. It has to talk to each other. You're talking about multiple systems in an office space which has to talk to each other. So the agility is also one of the expectations which are there in the office space environment. Same goes with the expectation that the system should be very light in terms of asset. You don't want to carry around multiple servers, workstations, have your dependency on the IT team to manage it, and all those stuff which is there. You don't want to have it. That's the perspective from administration or a kind of a security team at each of these facilities, right? And we are talking about multiple approvals in terms of emergency, what is the BCP, what is the business continuity plan. These are the expectations which are there in the office space requirement in the market right now. So what is the demand it creates in terms of the application of security itself, right? So when we talk about access control, it is a system which not only connects to the building, it also connects to the people in that. So it is kind of a central system which talks to multiple people, right? So keeping that in mind, okay, and also what is the new age era of office space, there are certain things which becomes a very baseline expectation from the customers that it has to be there. So as I said, one of the point mentioned is that distributed way of how the office spaces work. So you, instead of having one office, you have 10 offices now, right? 10 work centers. So what happens when you have a fragmented system, like you have multiple offices with different systems? When there is a policy change, it can be as simple as like a leave change or a leave holiday policy, or an attendance policy you're changing as the company. How it has to be implemented when it comes to a distributed infra, when it is fragmented or a silo system, you have to make sure that it is implemented at all places to the right depth by everyone at each of these offices, right? So that's one of the challenge you see, right? So that's one point which people want to address. And second is, when we are talking about remote work, even the administrators or the security people, they also work remotely because they might be sitting at one of the offices, but they are responsible for multiple offices. So you can't expect them to be physically present in each of these places, right? That's one of the things. And when we were talking about BCPs, business continuity plan, access control being actual barrier between the physical world and the asset and your client. Like if you're the client and your client data is there inside that physical space, so you're talking about multiple legalities and compliances in terms of business continuity. So you want to make sure that the system is available all time. There's no downtime in terms of the system when it comes to the physical security of the places which you are talking about. And as I said, asset light is one of the very important point which we have seen coming up in the market also, where due to these compliances again, they don't want to handle these compliances because it's very complex. They have to invest their manpower and time to address it rather than working on actual business issues of their own solutions and all. So that's again one of the expectations which is there. And also, when we are talking about multiple offices, today you might have like 1 lakh square feet, and tomorrow you might want to increase that particular space in terms of the people and the doors. You might also have multiple offices in the same city or a multiple city. So all those increase in terms of the scale of your organization, it has to be quit without any kind of a bottleneck. So again, that's an expectation from the customer side in the market. And like what we were talking about, access control is not a silo system. It talks to multiple different things. How securely your access control system can connect to multiple different systems which are there in a building office space, that's one of the expectation which is there. And rather than just talking about the data where I have a set of people who can access a particular door, it opens and I get the data, who has opened it, who has not opened it, who has been blocked. That is just the raw data. But how do you find the patterns? Okay, how do you find the patterns which will help you in finding out the threats preemptively? So that is also an expectation from the system. It's not like I'm just being told what to do, but I'm also being told what will happen if this trend continues. So that we call it as analytics or anomaly analytics. Okay. So this is these are some of the expectations which are there in the modern workspace in the market. So so what is the difference between the current systems? Which so we are in a phase of transition, right? Like how we used to have only cards and then we transited to something like a biometric during the COVID, and then now we are talking about digital credentials and all. So we are in a phase of transition. So we need to step back and identify what is the difference between what is happening right now, what was the system before, and what is that we are seeing in the future. Okay, so we are talking about from a server-centric system to a service-centric solution. So what is server-centric and what is service-centric? So basically, as a legacy on-prem system, you would have your own service. You would have the OS for it, SQL database for it. So all the integrations are managed at the local level by the IT team of yours. That's the server-centric model which you are talking about. So anything happens, that is on you. Any kind of scaling that needs to be done, that is on you. Any kind of integration that needs to be done, that is also on you. So this is all tightly coupled because it is sitting in one particular place, handled by a team. But when it comes to a service-centric model, say a SaaS model, which we are talking about, it is loosely coupled by architecture itself. Okay, it is not simply like you have a application, you just put it on a cloud-based infra, and it becomes a software which is on cloud-based solution. It is actually, we call it as cloud native, because all the services, because in an application you have multiple different services. It can be something like a notification, it can be something like a UI, it can be something like a database. So all these services are put out into a structure in a container. We call it as a container because it has its own self-sustained things which has to run by it. Okay, so if it is notification, whatever the libraries which is required for that application to run, it is all self-contained in it, and it runs like a microservices. You can just think it of like a beads of services which are there at the back end, which is all hosted in a cloud infrastructure, and each has its own world of working. Okay, so it just, you give an input from one service to another, it will give what output it has to give. That's it. So when what is the advantage of such a system is, one, it is very resilient by nature, by the design of the software itself, and it is also very secure because each services is independent. So if there is some kind of an attack to one service, one, it will erase and restart that service by itself. One. Second, one service attack will not affect the other service. So it is very secure. Your encapsulating whatever service we are talking about to that particular level only. The risk is being limited. So, and also when you're talking about scaling, because that's one of the point which I was mentioning before, right? So when you're talking about scaling per se, when you are physically scaling the locations, or when there is an increase in the number of users in your particular facility which is already there, we will also talk about that point in a which we call it as a legacy step paradox. So what happens is that scaling also automatically happens when it comes to a microservice better. Okay, so the scaling happens better when compared to a legacy model. It is very secure and it is also resilient. So that's the major difference between a SaaS, which is a service-centric model, and a server-centric model, which is our legacy system, which we have been using upon. So, and what advantage does that give you? Because you're talking about the system stability, you're talking about the scalability and all. It also gives you a predictable cost. Why it is so? This we call it as an iceberg effect, wherein you'd have seen an iceberg, right, floating in, say, during Titanic. Yes. So the most part in an iceberg is actually below the water surface. What you see is something like 10 to 15% of the iceberg total mass. So similar to it, what happens when you are going for a security system is the one which you usually compare, which comes to the table when it comes to a closure or a negotiation, is the licensing cost or the hardware cost, which is one which is very visible to you at that particular negotiation table, which is like 15% of the cost. That's your capex. But what happens to the rest of the cost, which is usually not seen or it is overviewed, is the cost of the redundancy. It is the cost of the refresh. So basically, whatever hardware in a legacy system, the servers or the workstations and other switches and whatever you are going to invest, that also has a limited time of life. So as a market standard, usually after 5 years, you are bound to change your service. So that is a cost which is going to come to you after 5 years, which you are not accounting right now because it is not in your BOQ. Similarly, there are costs which involves the operating system. It involves your client licenses. It involves the SQL database. It involves the software assurance of SQL database because you have to keep the SQL also updated, right? So there is a software assurance cost for it. So there involves some costs in terms of operation by cooling the space where you are keeping your servers and all those things. There are very important compliance costs because as a customer and you have a customer, as I said, you are bound to certain compliances to be done. Okay, it might be something like a PII compliance, the personal information, how you are handling, or it can be a security compliance of the application you are running in that particular office premises for your tenant. So these compliances comes with certain costs, certain manpower costs, certain costs for the compliances itself. So all these costs put together, it will be something around 80 to 85%, which is not visible for you because it is below the water surface, which is coming up for you in the operations in the years to come. So this is something I want you to understand because quite often what happens is people only compare this 15% of the capex cost, but they forego about the discussion on the rest of the cost which is there because it is not in the BOQ. Okay. So when we talked about the scalability, I also told you about a legacy trap. Okay, what happens is you as a owner of office space developing or as a consultant, you would have seen scenarios where this many people will be there in that premises. Okay, so you also know the minimum and maximum people which might come at a rush hour. Okay, what happens is either you have to design for that minimum or you have to design for the maximum, right? Or what you will do is you will design for a no average between those two demands. So the increase in the step, okay, between a minimum and maximum, it's like a ladder step. Okay, you can't do a dynamic scaling. So it has to be something like I will invest on the infrastructure in terms of the server, SQL, and everything for a minimum that is under provisioning, which will give me a risk of no the application failure due to the under provisioning, or I will over provision the system and infrastructure for a maximum number of usage or maximum number of traffic, but I will be underutilizing the infrastructure. So there is a cost. As I said, there is a hidden cost, which usually again is overviewed. So this scalability bottleneck is there in a legacy system. Unlike in a SaaS-based system where the scaling happens dynamically according to the traffic which we are talking about, this is not possible for you in a legacy system. You invest on X. If you want to increase it to a bigger capability, you have to reinvest on it. It doesn't happen that the X investment which you have done is going to scale for you. Okay, so this is a legacy trap which we call in terms of the on-premises applications. So what is the cost of inaction? So we have been talking about what is the expectation and what is the advantage of a service-centric model and all. So if you ask me, it is not that the legacy systems are bad. It is not designed for the current requirements. It is not designed for the current expectations of the people. So what happens when you don't shift to a service-centric model? So you're losing the agility which we talked about, because in terms of the policy updation across multiple sites, you are dependent on certain things which might take the time for implementation. So you are losing the agility. And also you are losing the visibility in terms of multiple sites, because there might be blind spots in terms of the compliances. You might not see that now, but when it comes to a non-compliance issue, that is where you will come to know that there is a risk there, right? And of course, on the business continuity plan, you are dependent on the physical server, which doesn't have a redundancy, or you might have a limited redundancy. So you're also losing out on the BCP point. And off late, as you see, the entire systems which are associated with the building or the office space, they are also moving to the service-centric model, right? So they are also moving on to cloud. They are also moving on to AI. So that is something you are missing out. It's more like you are missing out on the trend to go along with the development which is there in the market. So that's one of the strategic loss for you. So when it comes to these challenges, okay, so usually what happens, as you know, be it access control or CCTV or anything, the technology curve is very steep, right? So every time we have to catch up with that. Basically, you have to catch up with that technology curve so that you are at least on par with it, if not ahead. But when it comes to IDQ, I can proudly say that we are always ahead of that curve. How it is? So we were talking about the challenges and expectations, right? So you have challenges. So there has to be some hero who has to help you out. So our hero, we call it as Access 360.ai, which is a cloud native AI powered security platform. So why it is cloud native? Like what I said, it is not simply an application which sits on cloud, but it is designed for the cloud infrastructure itself. So when it comes to Access 360.ai, we talk about three structures. Okay, basically, at the core, it is a security application, so it has to cater to the secureness of it, how sturdy it is in terms of the cybersecurity and all. So there are some standards which I will talk about, which we bake in when we do the software development. Okay, and it is also very important that at its core, it has to be seamless. It has to be integrating with multiple things securely. So the support for integrations is also there for multiple systems to be talking to access control. We also focus on the sustainability part, because when we are talking about the modern workspace, so there is an expectation of everything going on mobile for the user, for the admin. So right from the access rights to managing a site to the credentials, we are taking everything on mobile as well. We are talking about web ready interfaces. So that is where the sustainability part comes in, right? And this core of the software is wrapped up and it is hosted for you in a cloud architecture. How basically you have the system. Now you're taking advantage of the cloud infra. How is this cloud infra? Basically, we partner with Microsoft Azure. As you know, it is one of the major cloud infrastructure partner. Where by default there are certain things which comes along with it. So one is the security, the audits which happen on the application which is being hosted there. There are security patches, updates which happens very frequently. So it is very secure, as you know. We work on a concept, as I said, on a containerized system, microservices, which gives you advantage of scaling. Okay, when it comes to a sudden increase of the demand for that particular microservice, it scales automatically. Be it a database, which we call it a serverless database, basically because when there is, it's more like a balloon. Okay, it's called elastic pool, where it increases the size according to the requirement at that particular point. It has auto scaling. It has multiple instances capability when it comes to no very huge traffic. It can create multiple instances and have a load balancer which helps out in easing out the managing of the site. So these are inherent advantage of a cloud architecture. So what we are doing is we are taking the core philosophy of access control application with its security and everything, and we are wrapping it with a sweet tooth for the advantage of a cloud architecture. So when we are talking about the software application in terms of the cloud architecture and the core security principles and all, we are not leaving out the things which are there at the site. So what I mean here is the controllers and the devices which are there at the site is also intelligent. We the one of the advantage we have is we partner with the open hardware systems, be it HID controllers or Mercury controllers or devices in the market, which is an open platform architecture, which gives you one advantage in terms of the flexibility of you not getting invested on a lock-in system where you are able to change the system, be it a software or hardware, depending upon that particular time of requirement, what you have. Okay, that's one thing. Second, these devices which we are talking about, the controllers or the biometric devices or whatever it is, it has intelligence inherent in it, which can take decisions in case there is a network failure. Okay, and whenever there is resumption of the network, it can push all these details to the cloud architecture. So that's the intelligence edge we are talking about. So as a whole, you're talking about the core system. It is wrapped in a cloud infrastructure advantage, and it also is coupled with the intelligent set of devices, which is open also. So we talked about the security architecture and things like that, right? So how it is done. So there are multiple places where you have interaction between the systems, right? So one I can say is how you are managing the users. So we have something called a zero trust architecture. Be it a user in logging in, which can be through a identity platform. You have multiple identity platform like Enter ID, Okta, and all. So there is no way between two devices when it comes to a communication or when it comes to a user login, it is going to trust blindly. Okay, it has to do that authentication every time. So that is the zero trust architecture we are talking about. So you are not laid back at any moment. That is the idea here. And when it comes to the communication between the devices, for example, between the controller and the cloud platform, we deploy certain high standards of the communication protocol similar to TLS 1.2, 1.3, where just to give you an example, imagine that I'm one of the person, I'm trying to send the information to another person whom I know. Okay. How that authentication happens, that only I have sent it and it is being received by the person I intend to, that is the TLS encryption. After that, that trust between two devices or the device and the cloud platform is established, it forms a tunnel of information where each of the data which is being sent, it is encrypted. Okay. So you're establishing an authentication tunnel, then you are encrypting the data also. So it is very secure. So anyone trying to impersonate one of the recipient or the sender in this particular mapping, it is not possible because there is a standard tunnel which has been established each time. Okay. So it is very secure in that part. And as I said, even the data which is at rest, okay, it is also encrypted. There is encryption between the devices, between the controller and reader, between the controller and the cloud platform. At each level, there is an encryption, there is an authentication process. Okay. So this is how we build that security architecture. This is the core philosophy which I was talking about. And last but not the least, we are also talking about the general standards which are there in terms of the software application. We regularly do the VAPT testing, which is the vulnerability and penetration testing for the appliances, which will identify whether there is any vulnerable points which needs to be addressed, by means of the testing. It's basically a brutal force attack on the application to identify the weak spots and addressing it. So that is also regularly being done as an industry standard. So this is about the internal security, right? So there are other expectations in the market also when it comes to compliances. So we are talking about SOC2 Type 2, which is basically to test how the organization over a long period of time is able to handle the data. Okay, how it is being handled, how it is being managed. So this is one of the major certification in terms of the data handling and all as an organization itself, because we are as a OEM, we are going to handle someone else's data, right? So for example, if some of my support team is going to see are the data being encrypted that they also not able to see, even though they are handling the system for some support requirements, they will not be able to see the actual data. It is encrypted. So similarly, there are other standards which the European law, which is the GDPR standard, which gives you the privacy related things, how the data is being taken from the people, is the consent being taken, is there a transparent message to them what it is used for, and do they have a erasure right to erasure if they want to delete the data of theirs. So these GDPR compliances is there. ISO 27001 is for the ISMS, and 27018 is for the PII. Again, it is related to the personal identification markers, how it is being handled in a cloud environment specifically. So all these compliances are by default there in the Access 360.ai, which unlike, if you remember what I was talking about, the compliances cost, right? So when it comes to a system which is completely handled by your team, this might be one of the requests from your tenant. They might see that I need these compliances to be there ready. So for you to be implementing it, there is a cost, there is a time for it. By the time, you don't want to miss out that tenant to your competition, right? So here it is natively complied. Okay, all these standards are natively complied. So that's the advantage you get in terms of the business proposition. Okay, so in terms of the infrastructure, we also talked about the availability which is there by default. The design in the cloud infrastructure is that you have multiple instances copied across multiple availability zones. There are geo redundancy zones also. For example, in India, we host the application on Azure, so it will be there in one side, it will be there on another side. So even if there is a disaster at one of the side, there is backup, immediate backup of that application, which runs your security system at place. So which is possible even in a legacy system, but it is difficult because you are limited. So if you want to go for redundancy, you can add one more server. If you want to go for geo redundancy, you can add one more server at one more place. But how many you can do it? This is like scaling, which is not practical for a legacy system. And again, in terms of the security patches, in terms of the software upgrades, everything happens over the air. So all the updates and security patches happens from the cloud to the system. So that is again an advantage for you. As I said, we have local instances in Azure India. So the data stays inside the India, so complying to the standards which are there. And of course, the low latency also helps in optimized performance in terms of the SaaS application. And yes, so this part is what usually we call it as a feather in cap. Basically, what we have done, as I said, we are a cloud native AI powered access control. We are the first AI powered access control platform itself, apart from the cloud native, which is the icing on the cake. Here, what we do is we take the logs which are laying around in terms of access control, and we try to make out a pattern out of it using the ML algorithm. So it gives you a couple of things. It's a very big subject, but still I'll just cover 2 or 3 points which might be helpful for you. One, it helps you in identifying an occupancy pattern. When you're talking about an office space environment and the culture, again, the hybrid culture which we are in right now. So you want to know which is your lean and which is your strong period in terms of the occupants or the footfalls, right? So by default, we have dashboards for it, which will give you granularity in terms of the occupancy or the footfall by day, by hour, by zone also. Okay, so you might have multiple different ODCs, you might have multiple different blocks. So you want to know which day, which block or which zone is having more occupants. or more footfall. That's possible, which can be helping in managing or optimizing your HVAC usage, your lighting usage, as such, right? So this is on the utility part. We also have something called an anomaly detection. So when it comes to office space or any other space, any other infra, one of the major risks people would be talking about is about the insider threat. So basically, it's the behavior of the persons who are part of the organization, which might bring in some kind of a loss, and it is not compensated by the insurance also. It can be as simple as there is a server room. I'm as an employee, I'm trying to break into it. So I have a pattern. I try to do it on Monday. I try to do it on Friday. Regular access data will give you access denied event in both the places, but it is very far away. So the number of data which is there between that will be so more that manual people cannot find the pattern. But here what happens is finds the anomaly, it sees whether there is a trend of it, whether there is a pattern for it, and it highlights that behavior. It can be that, it can be abnormal number of card usage for people who are helping in tailgating. So those kind of things which might bring in a catastrophe rate that is being identified before. Same goes with the vulnerability also. It identifies certain points which you're not addressing in that particular site. It can be something like a door open policy which is not being monitored, or frequent network failure, or anything of that sort. It gives all these analytics from the data which is there. So you're moving from just logs and reports to insights. Okay. This is also the core of the application of Access 360.ai. So we talked about the resilience, we talked about the scalability, we talked about the security, the agileness in the system itself. But when it comes to implementation, we are also worried about what is the total cost when it comes to me. Okay, I've seen it when I interact with people in the market that first thing they talk about is security, which is addressed by the lot of slides which we went through. But the second point usually is that since the SaaS or the cloud is a very new technology, they assume that it is very costly. Okay, the same principle which I was talking about, that 15% which is there above the water surface, they don't see the rest of the iceberg. Okay. So let's talk about what is the total cost of ownership. We'll break down that myth here. Okay. So when it comes to a SaaS application like Access 360.ai, it's one fixed subscription. Okay. So all this high availability, disaster recovery, the networking between multiple sites, because when you're having multiple sites, either you have to have an internet between it, you have to have a VPN connection for it. So all these are investments, right? So all these investments in terms of updates, the compliance, everything is all inclusive. So you're just similar to Netflix. You just have a subscription with Netflix. You don't worry how many servers are there, whether they have a redundancy for it, how it is managed in terms of upgrades and all. That's not your concern at all as a user. You're just paying for Netflix, right? A subscription for monthly or yearly, that is what you're paying. You're not worried about the rest of things. That's the SaaS model. But when it comes to a legacy model, for each of these steps, whether it is high availability or you're talking about disaster recovery, high availability, you have to have multiple redundant servers, right? So that's an investment for you. Apart from software licensing, I'm talking about. When it comes to disaster recovery, not only that you have to invest on servers at a different location, you have to take care of the network, you have to take care of a middleware for enabling this disaster recovery, hot takeover. You're talking about multiple sites, then there is VPN cost, there is internet cost, and all those things are there. So each of these costs gets added when you're talking about each of these things, which is by default included in the SaaS platform. So you're not, so as we said, there are things which are expected by the market itself, for which you have to invest multiple times, both in CapEx and OpEx, when it comes to a legacy system. But the same expectation can be met with a fixed cost in a SaaS platform. That's the idea and agenda here. So just to give you an example, for average site of three sites with 300 readers or 1,500 employees on a 5-year scale, okay, you would be saving somewhere around 35 to 40% in terms of the total cost of ownership when it comes to a SaaS platform compared to a legacy platform. Okay. So this percentage depends upon the sites and what you go for. Some people might not go for high availability, some people might go for high availability. So that is a difference. But there is a huge cost saving which is there in terms of total cost of ownership. Why I'm talking about total cost of ownership every time is it is not the BOQ which you see, but the expenses you are going to bear. It is not going to be different. It's going to be the same money from your own pocket, which you're going to bear in further 5 years, both on capex and opex, which also matters. Okay, this is the vision, overall vision, which I want you to have. Okay, when it comes to finances, also, I'm sure every time you go for approvals and all, your finances will be involved. And these are some of the things which they will be very happy about when it comes to a SaaS model. One, as I said, it is having a predictable cost, right? So you're not talking about something like I have a legacy system, and tomorrow I'm expanding a certain number of users. That demands an SQL cost. All of a sudden, you're moving from SQL Express to SQL Standard or any other license version. So these are emergency capex funds which are required all of a sudden because you're not planned it before. It was not seen below the iceberg, which we talked about, right? So that budget predictability is there in SaaS platform. You're just talking about one fixed cost for the budget. Okay. And second, when it comes to the capex itself, there is a huge cost which you are investing in the first year by means of the servers, by means of the switches, by means of whatever. So these costs gives an interest if you're not investing on it. So there is a massive interest saving also. Apart from the capex expenditure, you're also saving on the interest which you would have earned if you would have not put that money back on the system on day one. So this is a huge interest saving for your finance team also. Okay. And as I said, the scalability is also one factor. You're not jumping at the steps. So as I said, you're not going from step 0 to step 1 with no in between possibility when it comes to a scaling of system, when it comes to adding more sites for your organization. So these are some of the things which will also help your financial planning and also ease out the emergency expenditures which might come up when it comes to a legacy system. So we talked about convenience, we talked about the resilience, we talked about the finance and all. Uh, Quickly, I want to just talk about two cases where we are able to marry this convenience and security in India. Two cases, I might not be able to mention their names, but I'll just tell what is their challenge and how we were able to address using the SaaS platform. So this is one of the major base build developer in India who has presence at multiple sites, multiple cities. They have each site having like 50,000 plus employees, tenant employees who are there, like 5,000 at least daily visitors and all. So their expectation is to have a single property management application, basically an one app experience, where they want to have all the security in terms of the common area done from a digital credential, which is embedded in the property management application. Okay, so we were able to one of the main challenges is basically the volume and the traffic which we were talking about, right? So when you're talking about 55,000 people, at least one third of them is going to come all of a sudden in one shift. Okay, say 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So the system must be dynamically capable of expanding to that particular surge in the traffic. Okay, and they also don't want to go for a legacy card system. So that's again, like what I said, we have digital credentials as a part of the mobile application where we have something called a dynamic QR code. So that QR code changes every 5 seconds, which gives you a very secure digital credential. So that is embedded in the property management application to cater to the common area. One, you're not going to carry a card for the common area access for the tenant employees. There are multiple tenants. You can't, give them two cards, one for their own place and one for the common area. So that is eliminated. That issue is eliminated. And they are also having multiple campuses, so they want to manage multiple campuses in a single go. So that is also taken care. So this is one of the solutions which we are given using the SaaS platform of IDQ for managing such a big site. The second use case is about the managed office operators. You have so many of them right now post COVID because people want to have that flexibility. As I said, they also want to have a flexibility in terms of how many seats I'm going to invest today and how I can scale it up or down depending upon my business. So there is increased number of office space operators, managed space operators, or co-working space operators in the Indian market. So one of them we are partnered with, where they have multiple sites, where they manages offices for their tenants, basically like a consultancy. So we have deployed the SaaS platform there because they want to have a single solution for multiple sites. They don't want to get into the headache of managing the IT because they are also an asset light company. So it's a lean team. They don't want to get into the hassle of managing the server infra and all those things. So they went ahead with the cloud native SaaS platform of ours, wherein they were able to manage all the multi-tenancy across different sites, different cities, using our one system, and they were able to eliminate the capex and also the local IT dependency from their end. So this is another case I would like to just highlight as thought provoking for you. Yeah. So and the final one, just we want to highlight how the SaaS platform helps the consultants and integrators also, because when it comes to consultants, obviously you are giving the solution to the end clients. So by default, the compliances which we were talking about helps you in future proofing the system itself. It is not like it is a sudden surprise for you that your client's client is asking for a compliance which is not factored in during the design stage. It is already there for you. Uh, and you need not worry about designing the system itself, like what I said, the step paradox. So you are making sure that the system dynamically scales up or down depending upon the customer's actual requirement, the real-time requirement. And as I said, we also partner with the open hardware system, so you're not pushing your customer to a vendor lock-in as well. In terms of the system integrators, again, you are moving in from one-time revenue to a subscription model. Basically, you are serving the customer better, and you're also getting served in terms of the revenue better. And the amount of ease in terms of the installation, right? When you are going for a legacy system, you have to install the server, you have to install the SQL. There is a lot of things you have to do at the initial stage, though it is being managed by the IT team later. At the initial stage, you have to do it. So it's big time in terms of the cost of labor and everything. Here, as a SaaS platform, it is just deploy. That's it. So at least by 60 to 70%, your time and your cost will get reduced. And same goes with the maintenance also. When it comes to security upgrades and software upgrades, you need not go physically to each of the site and do it. When it comes to a multi-site environment, it is all done by the system itself over the cloud. So this we want to highlight as an advantage for the other ecosystem players in our market also. So yes, that finishes the session as such. But yes, we are open for the questions. So I would switch there to see the questions in the comment section, please. Yeah, so the ROI depends on multiple different things, as I was demonstrating in that one particular finance model slide. Uh, it depends on what the customer wants to adopt in terms of compliances. Some customers might say that I don't want to have compliances at all. But in general, as a SaaS system, your ROI starts from the day one because you're only investing on the subscription and you're not investing on the capex. The point which I was talking about, you're not investing on the capex, you are saving on the interest from it itself. So a theoretical ROI is somewhere right from day one because the investment is not there and you're already earning the fruits of it. The question is, in case end user wants to use their cloud, how would you update the software at what interval? Okay, so when the end user, there is a VR model in between what we discussed, the legacy and the SaaS platform, which is basically the customer having a subscription on private cloud. Okay, uh, when it comes to cases like that, there is something called the shared responsibility matrix when it comes to the cloud and cloud infrastructure and all. The customer handling their own private cloud is basically a platform as a service or an infrastructure as a service from their end. Okay. So what happens is the on-prem solution of ours, which we call it as Helix, that will be hosted. Like what I said, it is an application hosted in cloud infra. It is not a cloud native application. Okay. When it comes to Access 360.ai, that's a cloud native application because it is built through the microservices for cloud. Okay. When it comes to the other point where the customer has a private cloud subscription in terms of VMs or whatever, then the application, the on-prem application is hosted there. So when gets hosted in a private cloud of the customer, all the compliances, the maintenance of the system, everything happens at their responsibility. So the update also has to be done by them. It is not automatic because it is just the application sitting in a virtual server. That's the difference there. So when a customer wants to use their own cloud, then it becomes as good as the on-prem, except for the advantage of having a disaster recovery or a high availability, which is there in the private cloud as well. This question I have to come back because on the compliance part, maybe we will come back on this point. See, the usual vertical which the end user uses a SaaS platform, as I was highlighting in the use case also, is base builders who have multiple facilities. This could help them in managing the sites remotely because usually they don't have a much larger IT team. They wouldn't want to do all the compliance and stuff because it is being asked by their tenants also. Second is when it comes to the office space, the co-working office spaces, those kind of end user verticals, they prefer this because they want to be asset light because they have multiple small facilities. So predominantly it is the base build CRE and the office space verticals, which is very sweet spot for the SaaS market. Okay, one more question is how will the HRMS integration happen on cloud? So when we were talking about API-based integrations, we support the JWT JSON type of API integrations between the HRMS system and the IDCube SaaS platform. So two ways it can be done. One, if you have a cloud-based HRMS system, it can talk on API to the cloud platform of ours. That is one way. Usually, what we suggest when it comes to HRMS integration is that the API is being consumed by the HRMS partner because the frequency of pinging and getting the information is better that way. That they consume the API and get the details from the time and attendance logs. When it comes to HRMS on a on-premises system, still it can be done. Only thing, it has to be connected over a VPN to a SaaS platform. Then again, it's on API and it is governed by JWT, JSON Web Topics. It's a secure form of the communication on the systems. If we don't have any other questions, then yeah, I think we will wrap it up. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today, this evening for the session. I hope there is some takeaway for you. And please do contact us when you have any queries or any doubts still further. We will be happy to assist you. So this is my email ID as well. I'll also put in the chat box my email ID and contact. Please do connect with me and I'll help you out along with my team to get you the answers and the system support. Thank you so much.